And welcome back, everybody. Healthcare in America. We turn now to Joe Biden, and he wants an expansion of the Affordable Care Act. Well, actually, it's the Unaffordable Care Act. That expansion will carry a hefty price tag, my friends. Back in October, Biden acknowledged his plan would, quote, cost some money, requiring $750 billion in spending over a 10-year period. Joining me now, Texas Congressman and former White House doctor, Ronny Jackson. Congressman, welcome back to the Chris Salcedo Show. How is an expansion of Obamacare going to affect American taxpayers, number one, and then the quality of health care, number two?
Well, number one, the cost is going to go through the roof. You know, we can't afford health care as it is right now with just the people, that we'd be responsible for under the Biden plan. And then you take into account the fact that the border is about to become wide open, that we're going to have thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants that are going to cross into this country, that he's already promised free education, free health care, welfare, all these other burdens on our tax dollars that are going to come into play. There is no way that we can afford. I'll tell you, government mandated, government-funded health care is going to be a disaster for this country. Quality health care is going to drop like a rock. Accessibility is going to drop. You're not going to be able to get timely health care. It's going to be an unmitigated disaster if we go down this path. And this is the Biden wants to pursue health care, and he's got so many people from the far left and these crazy liberals that are out there that are pushing him in this direction. And I don't think he's got what it takes to push back. I think he's going to head us down that direction.
Well, on that same score, I mean, let's talk about somebody who a lot of people say is crazy, Dr. Levine. This is the person that many people are blaming for this, putting people who are COVID positives into nursing homes in Pennsylvania, resulting in a good many deaths of our elderly. But according to Mr. Biden, that's the perfect person for HHS. What is your take on that?
Well, look, who's screening these people for the Biden administration? For crying out loud, the evidence or the accusations were made against her were back in May. This is a person that should not be considered as a nominee for a cabinet, or not a cabinet position, but as a deputy secretary of health. She should be under investigation for criminal misconduct right now. I mean, she mandated that the elderly folks that went to the hospital, that were diagnosed with COVID, that weren't sick enough to be hospitalized, she mandated that they be sent back to the nursing home and integrated with the #1 most vulnerable population that we have in the United States, our elderly. And 70% of the deaths in the state of Pennsylvania were in the elderly population in nursing homes. And that can be directly tied to her. I cannot believe that she is under consideration for a position like this. She should be under investigation, not a nominee.
Yeah, and what about Javier Becerra? I believe he's the first pick for the HHS secretary position, right? He has no medical experience whatsoever, which is, of course, why you would want to have somebody in that position, right?
Right, that's exactly right. And I mean, this is just the Biden administration pandering to the socialist agenda. I mean, this is not going to work out well for any of us, believe me. We are going to have to make some course corrections here. This is not going to be good for us as a country.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I have, as you know, being there in Congress, the Democrats have eradicated the rights of the minority. So the Republicans are just basically there for window dressing. How do you have you been planning with some of your Republican colleagues? How do you plan to stand up and stop and protect your constituents back home from this wave of left-wing extremism that is now emanating from America's government?
Well, I'm hoping that, they have the slimmest of majorities in the Senate. It's 50-50, so they can't get any slimmer in the Senate. In the House, they have a very small majority as well. There's going to be 5 or 6, depending on what happens with another election or two. Either way, I think that if we can get a couple of Democrats that can defect, common sense Democrats, hopefully there are a couple out there, that we can stop a lot of this nonsense. But a lot of it's just going to be throwing up roadblocks, trying to stop the nonsense that's going on right now. One of the biggest challenges that we have as Republicans right now is they are taking away our free speech right now. And it's not just the Republican Party in Congress. It's the 74 million people that didn't vote for President Biden, that voted for Trump. The left is adamant about destroying their ability to get their voice out and to make a difference. And so that's going to be one of our biggest challenges, but we're going to keep after it.
Right, the preservation of free speech. It's a very American ideal that's been rejected by a lot of folks in the media, ironically enough, and also by the left-wing party. Sir, thank you very much. Appreciate the time, Congressman.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.